Yeah, yeah, it's
Okay.
recorded just now.
Okay. So, yeah, my next door neighbor might join us. He's really interested in that book, Life Comes from Life. And I told him you were interested in it too.
Hmm.
That's a good book. I mean, that was Prabhupada's like clarion call to fight all these owl-like so-called materialistic scientists, who think that life comes from matter. They call it abiogenesis. That's what the dictionary definition of that concept is. All life comes from a matter, and Prabhupada was very strong about that. Unlike, it's like a lot of Christians, theologians, they couldn't argue with the scientists, because it's so pervasive after Darwin's theory 150 years ago. And so they kind of acquiesced. They kind of like said, okay, yeah, maybe we can just like say both at the same time. But Prabhupada was very strong. He didn't tolerate it. He
Well, we
said
needed him.
he said, this rascal Darwin, he has ruined the whole civilization. What is his philosophy? We kick on his face. The more you kick on Darwin's face, the more you're advancing in Krishna consciousness. He said,
I don't, yeah, because it's like I don't hate the man. Because I've read the book and I just don't. It's just like I said, science. Like I told you in the text
yeah.
messages, like, I got bored of it. I got
Yeah,
bored.
I mean, it's. I mean, you can talk about all these different theories, and all they are is theories, but it's pretty much a religion because you have to believe it on faith, and there's nothing that really says that it's true. I mean, the fossil record doesn't say it. The cellular, all these things that they say as proof, they don't really have any proof. And so life comes from life. We see that all the time. Anyway, he wants to
Yeah,
join us next week, and he's kind of interested in that book. He's not a devotee, but he's a really nice guy. He lets me uh, borrow his raccoon traps. I got two of them.
yeah, yeah, baby steps.
Yeah, I mean, he's interested in that one book. He's not really interested. I mean, he's pretty open minded. His daughter actually just turned 25 on Memorial Day, and they had like a little party in the backyard. She
Hmm.
actually did a multimedia piece for college. She's got a new job too, and so, but she, a couple of years ago, 2 or 3, 4 years ago, uh, she was going to be interviewed. She was going to interview this one politician. And the politician kept blowing her off, and so her father said, "Well, why don't you interview the guy next door? He's pretty interesting." And so she asked me, and so she did a whole thing, like a blog and a uh, and a video piece and like different kinds of multimedia presentations. She came over and interviewed me and videoed me and everything. Took shots of the deities, and that was kind of far out. But
Yeah,
so yeah, so his daughter is he's interested in, and I don't want to press him too much because you can't press people too much, but he underlined a whole bunch of Sanskrit words in that book, Life Comes from Life, and he wants to know what they are. So I'm going to tell him to send me some screenshots, and maybe we can discuss a little bit next week when we're talking about talking about the Bhagavatam, because it's all related.
hmm,
Anyway, text 4, I'll read the Sanskrit and stuff and translation, and then we can take turns reading the paragraphs.
all right.
Namise nimisha chetre rishaya samakadaya satram swargaya lokaya sasrastra samam ashata. Synonyms: Naimaise, in the forest known as Naimasharanya. Animasi chetra, when the spot which is especially a favorite of Vishnu, who does not close his eyelids. Rishya, sage, is Shonaka Adaya, headed by the sage Shonaka. Satram, sacrifice. Svargaya, the Lord, who is glorified in heaven. Lokaya, for the devotees who are always in touch with the Lord. Sahasra 1,000 Shamam years. Asata performed. Translation: once in the holy place in the forest of Namasharanya, great sages headed by the sage Shonaka assembled to perform 1,000-year sacrifice for the satisfaction of the Lord and his devotees. Go ahead.
The purport, the prelude of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam was spoken in the previous 3 shlokas. Now the main topic of this great literature is being presented. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, after its first recitation by Srila Sukadeva Goswami, was repeated for the second time at
Naimasharanya.
Excuse me.
The S with a dot under it is pronounced sh, sh. In the via Tantra, it is said that Brahma, the engineer of this particular universe, contemplated a great wheel which would enclose the universe. The hub of this great circle was fixed at a particular place known as Namasharanya. Similarly, there's another reference to the forest of Namasharanya in the Varaha Purana, where it is stated that by performance of sacrifice at this place, the strength of demoniac people is curtailed. Thus, Brahmanas prefer Namasharanya for such sacrificial performances.
The devotees of Lord Vishnu offer all kinds of sacrifices for his pleasure. The devotees are always attracted to the service of the Lord, whereas fallen souls are attracted to the pleasures of material existence. In Bhagavad Gita, it is stated that anything performed in the material world for any reason other than for the pleasure of Lord Vishnu causes further bondage for the performer. It is enjoyed through that all acts must be performed sacrificially for the satisfaction of Vishnu and his devotees. This will bring everyone peace and prosperity.
Yeah, sacrifice for Vishnu has to be performed. You know, you do everything for Krishna. You whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer, give away, whatever, as well as whatever austerities you may perform, should be done as a sacrifice for me, as an offering to me. Krishna says, the great sages are always anxious to do good to the people in general, and such as sages headed by Shonaka and others assembled at this holy place of Namasharanya with a program of performing a great and continuous chain of sacrificial ceremonies. Forgetful men do not know the right path for peace and prosperity. However, the sages know it well, and therefore for the good of all men, they are always anxious to perform acts which may bring about peace in the world. They are sincere friends to all living entities, and at the risk of great personal inconveniences, they're always engaged in the service of the Lord for the good of all people. Lord Vishnu is just like a great tree, and all others, including demigods, men, siddhas, charnas, vidyadharas, and other living entities, are like branches, twigs, and leaves of that tree. By pouring water on the root of the tree, all the parts of the tree are automatically nourished. Only those branches and leaves which are detached cannot be so satisfied. Detached branches and leaves dry up gradually despite all watering attempts. Similarly, human society, when it is detached from the Supreme Personality of Godhead, like detached branches and leaves, is not capable of being watered, and when attempting to do so is simply wasting his energy and resources. You can read the last 2 paragraphs.
Yeah. The modern materialistic society is detached from its relation to the Supreme Lord, and all its plans, which are being made by atheistic leaders, are sure to be baffled at every step, yet they do not wake up to this. In this age, the congregational chanting of the holy names of the Lord is the prescribed method for waking up. The ways and means are most scientifically presented by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and intelligent people may take advantage of his teaching in order to bring about real peace and prosperity, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is also presented for the same purpose, and will be explained more specifically later in the text.
Yeah, it's like they don't wake up to this. They do things again and again for the their own sense gratification and to make some kind of plan for materialistic civilization, but they can't wake up to that every step of the way they're being baffled. And so they ignore all that because they want to be the lords of all they survey. They want to be God, and so they hate God and they hate anybody who tries to worship God, and they want to be God themselves. Like the scientists, they want to say, okay, we'll make you eternal, we'll make you we'll give you all knowledge, we'll give you all the answers, we'll put a chip in your head and so you'll live forever or something like that.
Yeah.
And like all these things just show their envious nature. They don't want to give credit. They wanted to get all the credit for themselves. They want to take away the credit from God, And so Prabhupada was very strong about the scientists. And he said, this is like an owl civilization. The owl, it closes its eyes
Yeah.
in the sunshine. He said,
Yes,
this is an owl civilization. And you could say to the owl, hey, Mr. Owl, open your eyes and see the sun. And the Prabhupada says, no. The owl, he says, no, there's no sun. I don't see the sun, and so we have to fight with these owls. It's the owl civilization. These people don't wake up to everything. All their materialistic plans are being baffled at every moment, yet they don't wake up to the fact that their plans are being destroyed. There are no material solutions in this world to any problem. There is no problem in this material world. The only problem is a lack of Krishna consciousness. The Krishna consciousness is a solution to all the problems, and we can prove it. And that therefore the only lack in this world, the only problem in this world is Krishna consciousness, the lack of Krishna consciousness. And that will solve all the problems. If you understand that Krishna is a proprietor, he's the best well-wishing friend of every living entity. If you understand that he's the owner of everything and the best well-wishing friend of all living entities, then you'll attain peace. That's the peace formula. So, but if you try to think everything is mine and this world is meant for my enjoyment, and then people fight among themselves, there'll never be peace. So whatever peace plans they have, that Prabhupada used to say that the United Nations is like a bunch of dogs and cats. They're just barking at each other. And the more they, there used to be one government under saintly kings like Maharaj Parikshit and Maharaj, all these different saintly kings. There was one world government. Now, you look at the United Nations, there's hundreds of different flags, and they're all fighting with each other because they want to pursue their own national agenda. And there'll never be peace like that. You have to have one common cause. That's what Prabhupada says at the beginning of this book. He says, the world is looking for a common cause. There has to be a common cause to create peace in the world, where it can rally behind one common cause. And when we understand what that cause is, he's the cause of all causes, and then that is natural. You don't have to, when you understand that he owns everything, then you won't fight over anything. So that's the book. This book is meant to create a revolution in the lives of misguided civilization. That's Prabhupada's determination right from the get-go. He wanted to create a revolution in the lives of this world's misguided civilization. People are misguided by all this demonic philosophy and this atheistic philosophy, and they think they'll make a solution they want God without God, and they can't have that. They want the heaven on earth without God. That's not possible. So let's just continue reading here. Ta ekada tumunia prakati huta hunangnaya satkritam sutamasinam praprachuridam ardaharat. Synonyms: te, the sages; ekada, one day; two, but; mundya, sages; prita, morning; huta, burning; huta agnaya, the sacrificial fire; satkritam, due respects; sutam, Sri Suta Goswami; asinam, seated on; praprachu, made inquiries; idam, on this, as follows: adarat, with due regards. Translation: one day after finishing their morning duties and by burning a sacrificial fire and offering a seat of esteem to Srila Suta Goswami, the great sages made inquiries with great respect about the following matters. Go ahead.
The purport. Morning is the best time to hold spiritual services. The great sages offered the speaker of the Bhagavatam an elevated seat of the respected called the
Vyasasan.
Vyasasan, or the seat of the Shri Vyasadeva. Shri Vyasadeva is the original spiritual preceptor for all men, and all other preceptors are considered to be his representatives. A representative is one who can exactly present the viewpoint of Shri Vyasadeva. Shri Vyasadeva impregnated the message of Bhagavatam onto Srila Sukadeva Goswami, and Srila Suta Goswami heard it from him. Srila Sukadeva Goswami, all bona fide representatives of Srila Vasudeva in the chain of disciplic succession, are to be understood to be Goswamis. These Goswamis restrain all their senses, and they stick to the path made by previous acharyas. The Goswamis do not deliver lectures on the Bhagavatam. What's that word?
Capriciously.
Capriciously. Rather, they execute their services more carefully, follow their predecessors who delivered the spiritual message unbroken to them.
See, Shukadeva Goswami was Vyasadev's son. And he was self-realized even in the womb. He was a self-realized soul. And he didn't come out of the womb. He was in there for 9 years. And he didn't want to come out because he didn't want to get entangled in the material world. And so his father, Vyasadeva, told him, he gave him a good reason to come out. I think he heard the message of Krishna, and he became attracted. And immediately after he came out of the womb, he was already like 9 years old, and so he immediately left into the forest. And Vyasadeva called out his name, and only the trees were answering with the echoes. He just walked away. But Vyasadeva was his father, and Shukadeva Goswami was the son. He originally spoke the Bhagavatam. And then Suta Goswami, the speaker, there's like two conversations in this book. There's the conversation between Sukadeva Goswami and all the people that were gathered on the banks of the Ganges, because Parikshit was the king at the time, and he was cursed by a Brahmin to die in 7 days. And so all these great sages from all over the universe came down and sat in the bank of the Ganges with Shukadeva Goswami. And Shukadeva, he was like a teenager at the time. He was only like 16 years old, but everybody knew that he was the most advanced of all the great sages. Even Narada Muni was there, and Vyasadeva himself was there. But they gave the Vyasasan, or the representative of Vyas. He sits on an elevated seat called a Vyasasan, and he explains the Bhagavatam in disciplic succession. In other words, it's taught exactly as his father taught it, and it comes down in a chain, just like they call Shukadeva. Shuka means parrot, and when you take a mango from high on a tree and you pass it down, You pass it from one person to another when it reaches the ground intact. But when Shukadev tastes the fruit of that tree of the Bhagavatam, it's like the beak of a parrot. When it pierces a mango, it becomes even sweeter. And so when Shukadev tasted the essence of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, it became even sweeter. It's not that he was repeating just rote by, like a parrot. It's just that he made it presentable to people by following in this path and presenting it exactly as it was, but he presented it in a way that was palatable for everybody to hear. And he followed in the footsteps of his great father, who was incarnation of Vishnu himself, a literary incarnation who wrote this book. Vyasadeva was an incarnation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who delivered all the Vedas. If you go to any college or university, the Vedas are in there. And he wrote all the Upanishads, all the Itihasas, the Puranas, and especially the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. And within the Mahabharata, that great epic literature, is the Bhagavad Gita. And so he wrote everything. And, they didn't have any kind of books or anything like that, but Ganesh, the half elephant, half man, he broke off his tusk and he started writing with his tusk. So, he started dictating Vyasadev's. He took dictation from Vyasadeva and wrote down all the Vedas. That's pretty far out, huh?
That is. That's why I have a couple Ganeshas around in my house.
Yeah. You have that
hoodie
sweatshirt, right?
Yeah, that hoodie.
Yeah,
looks like a slot machine.
That's a cool sweatshirt. I like those colorful Vedic sweatshirts.
Yeah.
I guess I'm reading the next one here.
Yeah.
Why don't you read the second paragraph?
Yeah, I'll read it.
Too much.
Okay, that's fine.
Those who listen, you read that.
Those who listen to the Bhagavatam may put questions to the speaker in order to elicit the clear meaning. But this should not be done in the challenging spirit. One must submit questions with a great regard for the speaker and the subject matter. This is also the way recommended in Bhagavad Gita. One must learn the transcendental subject by submissive oral reception from the right source. Therefore, these sages addressed the speaker, Sutta Goswami, with great respect.
Oral reception means hearing. Oral means hearing from the right source. And so one time Prabhupada was in a Pandal program. Pandal means like thousands of people addressing an audience, Yeah. And he was talking about the Bhagavad Gita and how you have to hear it in a submissive mood. And one time, this hippie, this is like back in the 70s, and there were hippies back then. This hippie started challenging Prabhupada. He said, "Have you realized yourself? Are you fully realized yourself and the essence of who you are?" And Prabhupada said, "Yes." And the hippie was kind of taken aback at first. And then he challenged him again. He said, "So you say the Bhagavad Gita was spoken 5,000 years ago. So other people say it was 500 years ago, 1,500 years ago. Which one is it?" And he said, "Well," and Prabhupada got a little angry and he said, "I don't have to answer your question. I'm a servant of Krishna. I'm not your servant." And he said, "You have to answer my question." And he started arguing with him. And so it turned out to a big argument. And finally Prabhupada did that on purpose, though, because he was trying to make a point that this subject matter has to be heard from a submissive point of view. Like even a lot of organizers of the speaking event were disturbed by, well, how come your guru is arguing with this hippie? That's not good, And but he did it on purpose because he was trying to point out that sometimes you have to understand. He was making a point that you have to. The whole point of the lecture was that you have to hear in a submissive way, otherwise you'll never hear.
Yeah.
So let's see here. Text 6. We got 7 minutes and 38 seconds left here. Rishya uchu tvaya kalo pranani Stetihas Sanichanaga Akyatani Apiatitani Dharma Shastrani Antyuta. Synonyms. Rishaya, the sages, Uchu said, Tvaya by you, Kalo, undoubtedly. Pranani, the supplements of the Vedas with illustrative narrations. Sa Itihasani, along with the histories, Cha and Itihasa means histories. Cha and Anaga, free from all vices. Akyatani explained Api, although Adhitani, well read, Dharma Shastrani, scriptures giving right directions to progressive life. Yani, all these, Uta said. Translation. Sages said, respected Sutta Goswami, you are completely free from all vice. You are well versed in all the scriptures famous for religious life and in the Puranas and the histories as well. For you've gone through them under proper guidance and have also explained them.
The purport. A Goswami, or the bona fide representative of Sri Vyasadeva, must be free from all kinds of vices. The four major vices of Kali Yuga are 1. Illicit connection with women. 2. Animal slaughter. 3. Intoxication. 4. Speculative gambling of all sorts. Goswami must be free from all these vices before he can dare sit on the Vyasayana. One should not, I had a hard time. One should be allowed to sit on the
Vyasasan.
Vyasasan. Okay, I caught it now. Vyasasan, who is not spotless in character and who is not freed from the above mentioned vices. He not only should be freed from all such vices, but must also be well versed in all revealed scriptures or in the Vedas. The Puranas are also part of the Vedas, and histories like the Mahabharata or Ramayana are also part of the Vedas. The Acharya or the Goswami must be well acquainted with all these literatures. To hear and explain them is more important than reading them. One can assimilate the knowledge of the revealed scriptures only by hearing and explaining. Hearing is called Sravana, and explaining is called Kirtan. Is that Kirtan?
Kirtana, Shravana,
Yeah.
Kirtana.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I know. Sometimes the A is silent.
Yeah, sometimes it's silent. Shravana, with the little slash above the S, that's also pronounced SH. Shravana.
The two processes of Shravana and Kirtana are the primary importance to the progressive spiritual life. Only one who has properly grasped the transcendental knowledge from the right source by submissive hearing can properly explain the subject.
Yeah, Shravana. See, those are two of the most important of the 9 processes of devotional service. The 9 processes of devotional service are Shravana, Kirtana, Vishnu. See, it says Vishnu because you don't just hear about any kind of demigod like Ganesh or Shiva or anybody else. Shravana, Kirtana, Vishnu. Vishnu is the supreme personality of Godhead. The demigods are not equal to him. Shravana, Kirtana, Vishnu, Smarna, Padasevana, Archana Bandhanam Dasyam Shakyamat Nivedanam. So Shravana means hearing, Kirtan means chanting, Smarna, after hearing and chanting, you remember. And Kirtan means explaining the scriptures. So like Maharaj Parikshit, he was on the bank of the Ganges waiting for death, and his guru Shukadeva Goswami was explaining. So Maharaj Parikshit achieved perfection by hearing, and Shukadeva Goswami achieved perfection by explaining the Bhagavatam. And all the rest of them, Shravan, Kirtan, and Vishnu. Smaranam is remembering Krishna. Padasevana means serving the lotus feet. Archana means worshiping the deity in the temple. Archanam Bandhanam, Vandanam means serving. Dasyam means, or vandanam. Dasyam means serving. Vandanam dasyam. Atma Nivedanam means surrendering everything. Anyway, there's 9 processes. I can't remember them all
Yeah, I'm sure.
right off the top of my head, but there's 9 processes in devotional service, and you perform one or all of them, you can reach perfection. But first, there's hearing. Hearing is most important, but hearing is not enough. Hearing, then explaining them. If you can assimilate the knowledge and very easily by hearing and then speaking about it, trying to put it in your own words, except it's not your words. The words are coming from Krishna. You're the one that's explaining it, but you're just channeling Krishna. Krishna's the one that's speaking the words through your mouth. That's really important to understand. We don't have to get all this knowledge in your mouth and then just like pack it into your brain, and then once you've assimilated it, then you can explain it. No, like Jesus Christ, his disciples asked him, he told them to preach the message of God, and they said, well, Master, how do we speak this message? He said, just open your mouth. You just open your mouth and speak, and I will speak through you. So this process is simply a matter of listening to Krishna in the heart and understanding what you've heard and then repeating it. Even a 5-year-old can do this. You say, a 5-year-old can say, Krishna is Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's perfect. So this is the process, and it's not us that's doing it. When I was in New Vrindavan, I realized, like I was standing in front of Radha Vrindavan Chandra, and I was thinking, I'm thinking that I've read so much, I know so much, but this isn't my knowledge. It's not my process. It's Krishna's process. He's the one that's doing everything. We don't do anything. We are nothing. We're, like the Bible says, we're just nothing but filthy rags. Anyway, we're less than 1 minute remaining. Thank you very much.